Hello and welcome to Estuary TV. On tonight's show, a 90-year-old veteran from our region is awarded the Arctic Star in recognition of his service in the Merchant Navy. A Grimsby painter has several stolen paintings returned after more than 20 years. And joining me on the sofa is Jeff Bown, who overcame dyslexia to write poems. But first, here's James Durner with the news headlines.
Hello, in the news today, teenage pregnancies are amongst the highest in the country in North East Lincolnshire, and the return of a painting that went missing for 20 years. New statistics show that the rate of under 18 pregnancies in the region is well above the national average. Figures from the Office of National Statistics show that out of 346 local authorities, North East Lincolnshire has the 14th highest rate of pregnancies in women under 18. 4.1% of all women who fall pregnant in the borough are not yet of adult age. The rate is also higher than the national average of around 2.8% in Hull, East Lindsey, West Lindsey and North Lincolnshire, but lower in East Riding where it's just 2.1%. But the rate has dropped considerably since the figures started being collated in 1998, particularly in Hull where it's dropped from 8.4% to 3.9%. Gail Teasdale, Hull City Council's Integrated Services Manager for Children and Young People, said the reduction was achieved through good quality sex education and a commitment to address the issue. Grimsby residents gathered in Nunsthorpe to discuss their concerns surrounding the series of the Channel 4 documentary Skint being filmed in the town. The television company has confirmed that producers have been carrying out test filming, but the programme has not yet got the go-ahead. People hope by coming together they'll be able to dissuade telly bosses from making what has been referred to locally as poverty porn. More than 800 people have signed a petition that will be submitted to the studio in an attempt to stop the show in its tracks. Oasis founder Steve Chalk talked during the meeting about the devastating consequences that the programme might have.
It's a brilliant community. If Channel 4 are making a programme called Skint, it's because they're Skint. Actually, they are a Skint television channel in search of an audience to deliver to some advertisers. And that isn't a very high motive for making a programme about this community and misrepresenting them. And of course they dress it up as a serious piece of journalism, but I don't think anybody believes that.
The local hospital trust has admitted mortality figures are an effective smoke alarm to prompt further investigation after they were criticised by a top professor. Nick Black was asked by the NHS to investigate whether mortality rates are an indicator of poor care for a report to be published in December. But this week he said the figures can be misleading and should be ignored. Northern Lincolnshire and Goole hospitals were put into special measures last year because of the rates, which highlighted the crisis of care at Mid Staffordshire Hospital. The Care Quality Commission has since given the Trust a clean bill of health, but the Trust said the figures should be regarded as a smoke alarm requiring further investigation. They say this is something they took very seriously, but that improvements have been made and the recent CQC inspection proves that they are now meeting and surpassing required care standards. The fire service has chosen to freeze the preset for the fourth successive year, despite a reduction in government funding. Their funding has been reduced by 27% over 5 years, but John Briggs, chairman of the Fire Authority, said he was proud they managed to cope with the reductions without increasing the cost to hard-pressed families. Meanwhile, Humberside Police Crime Commissioner Matthew Grove is seeking to increase the police precept, despite non-approval from his crime panel. And North East Lincolnshire Council have already approved a 1.9% increase in council tax, while councillors in Hull are being asked to back the same proposal. The Police and Crime Commissioner hopes to appoint a major in the British Army as his new chief executive. Martin Scoble is currently a serving soldier, but Matthew Grove hopes to appoint him to replace Kevin Sharp at the end of March, should the crime panel accept his proposal. The role was advertised locally with an £80,000 salary, but Mr Grove says this is less than what Mr Sharp is on and that he is legally required to have a chief executive. A painting of Cleethorpes Pier worth thousands of pounds, which went missing from Spain more than 20 years ago, has been returned to the Grimsby artist who painted it. It was the first thing Sarah Webb painted when she was commissioned to work in Spain fresh out of university, but it and a number of others later went missing in the early 1990s. But in December, Sarah got an email from a man in Holland who offered to return the painting of the pier and 3 others for €180.
He brought back 4 large ones, all about roughly 5 feet by 4, all on board. And I just couldn't believe that it was in such good condition. However, he didn't have anything else to say on the subject. I didn't like to ask, because he was quite a foreboding character. So I still don't know where they were. I was just glad to have them.
More on that story later. That's all from me. See you next time.
An East Yorkshire man, one of thousands from our region who put their lives on the line serving in the Merchant Navy in World War II, has been presented with a new medal recognising the time he spent delivering aid in Russia. The medal campaign is now open to all Arctic convoy heroes. I went along. 70 years after the bitter convoys of aid to Russia, family, friends and officials gathered in Kirkella to recognise Captain Frank E. Holmes and the sacrifices he made during World War II in the Merchant Navy when he was third officer aboard MV Trevorian. The High Sheriff of the East Riding of Yorkshire, Stephen T. Larrard, formally presented the Arctic Star.
With grateful thanks of all of us here today and the whole country. Thank you very much indeed.
And it's thought around 120,000 people or their next of kin are now eligible for this campaign medal. Now in his 90s, his son Frank E. Holmes spoke on behalf of his father on this special day.
From my father's perspective, I would just like to briefly comment on his daily life inside the Arctic Circle during winter time. I think it's something that the country should be proud of, that we still have veterans that we can express our gratitude towards. Having recently returned to the UK from Eastern Europe, there's a lot more knowledge of this Arctic convoys in Eastern Europe, in the former Soviet Union, than I find in the UK. Of course, when you're talking to older people here in the UK, they understand it. But in Eastern Europe, even the younger people understand what the Merchant Navy and the escorts did during the Second World War in supporting them.
What about seeing all your brethren from the Lodge, the Honourable Company and also the Trinity House? They're all here in force today. How do you feel? Extremely proud, he says. Extremely proud.
When you lose something, how long before you give up on the idea of ever finding it again? Well, after waiting for over 20 years, Grimsby painter Sarah Webb has finally been reunited with some of her paintings, which went missing in mysterious circumstances. James Dunn went to find out more.
Fresh out of university, Sarah Webb got a job in set design with a production company that made pop videos for the likes of Bros in their glory days. But she created her own work by night, and it wasn't long before it was spotted, hanging in the warehouse where she worked.
A chap came in one day to buy some plastic lemons for a Gordon's gin advertisement, and very effervescent character. He'd asked who the wonderful paintings were on the wall. It turned out he had a place in Spain. He was an entrepreneur and wanted to sponsor me to go and live and paint in Spain for 6 months.
But when she got there, Sarah had to look closer to home for inspiration.
The problem was that I was faced with all these gorgeous blue skies, you know, dripping with French ultramarine and lemon yellow and the rest of it. And I just wasn't used to that. You know, I was born in Cleethorpes. I had the, you know, wonderful sort of metallic colours of Cleethorpes. You know, I used a minimal palette, so I never really had to buy any French ultramarine, and I just, you know, constant blue skies and no storms, no cloud, no sort of misery, just didn't inspire me. So the first thing I painted, surprise, surprise, was Cleethorpes Pier.
But soon enough, Sarah was fully immersed in Spanish life. She would spend evenings in the tapas bar and paint all night. Commissions came in from all over the world and work would sell for in excess of £10,000. But as her career took off, so did some of her paintings.
My agent, Eric Hall, used to kind of leave Spain on a regular basis to go off to his other properties and businesses that he had. And on one occasion, a lot of my work disappeared in his absence. And people were fighting over my work. So people, of course, get wind of this. More than likely took it and did try and sell it.
Sarah's late agent Eric continued to search for the paintings from when they disappeared in 1990 until his death in 2008, without success. But 3 months ago, Sarah got a mysterious email from a Dutchman.
It was that he'd found or had in his possession 4 of my large paintings. Didn't say what was on them, just said, you know, I believe they're yours, but if you give me €180 on Tuesday, I'll be arriving in Grimsby then, you know, you can have them. So I turned up, he arrived at the gallery, unpacked the painting, big Spanish spider flew out, he stamped on that because it was a venomous one. Sure enough, they were mine, immaculate condition, and one of them was the pier.
And now they've been reunited, Sarah hopes the painting will stay a little closer to home when it goes on sale.
As it's disappeared for so long and is now back in the area, I'd like it to be in the pier.
Sarah now paints in a Grimsby studio upstairs in the recently closed Gate Gallery. She's been nominated twice for a Top Portrait Awards and is a well-established professional with a celebrated career. So to young, aspiring artists, she has one message. Good work will speak for itself, so don't take yourself too seriously. This is James Dunn, Estuary TV News.
My guest today is Jeff Bound, who is a keen poet despite battling with dyslexia. Hello Jeff, how are you?
Fine, thank you very much.
So when it comes to the dyslexia, should that deter people from getting involved in poetry? Is it something for everyone really?
I don't think it should deter people. It's a struggle, but if you battle through, then you'll prevail, because that's what I did, obviously.
And what is it that you love about poetry?
I like poetry because it's written from the heart, and it's a way of expressing obviously my feelings. Obviously.
And how long have you been doing it for?
Poetry I've been writing for about 10 years, but battling with dyslexia, obviously. No one else could read what I wrote until the invention of the PC, obviously.
Right, and has technology, you know, been a massive help then, really?
Technology, yes, it has. In leaps and bounds, the way technology is today, from obviously you can write a poem now on the phone with any. Sorry, you have to start that bit.
Yeah. Oh no, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, if I can just come on to the poetry events that you do, what is that about?
I run a poetry club that I started up. It's held at the number 1 every month, and it's like an open mic night. We invite poems and the public, and they come along and enjoy a night of pie, peas and poetry.
And it's something for everyone, isn't it? It's not someone who has to be kind of a seasoned poet. If I just written a couple and I fancied standing up and giving them a go, would I be welcome?
You'd be very welcome, yes. No, you don't have to be a poet, and there's no rules. No, you don't have to do sonnets or anything. There's no rules and regulations to it.
And when it comes to poetry, does that play a big role in some people's life? Is it an outlet for some people?
It's an outlet for me, and yes, people do express themselves through the written word, and it's one way of getting your feelings known, and you've got an audience as well to it. So,
and for people watching who may think it's something that they would like to get involved in, what would you say to them?
I would say they can contact me through social media. Just look for Jeff Poetman, and I can lead them into the direction for. There's quite a lot of different outlets for poetry, but ours is slightly unique as we've got an audience with it as well, whereas most are closed shops. So if you're feeling brave, then come along. Yeah.
And it's taking place in a pub, isn't it? So can you have a bit of Dutch courage at the same time?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can have a bit of Dutch courage and pies and peas as well,
right.
which is free. So and the entry is free as well. You just have to buy your drink. Yes.
That's fantastic. I'm going to have to leave it there, Jeff. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, don't forget that if you have any stories, news or views that you want to share with us, get in touch by phone on Grimsby 315561, write on our Facebook page or tweet us at Estuary TV or email us on news@estuary.tv. I'm afraid that's all from us for today. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.